Good morning, and welcome to my 8th State of the School. This year it has some very exciting things, so I'd very much like to get started. First, I thought I'd say a little bit about our mission, why we come to work every day. And we have 3 goals. One of them is to become the best in the world in medical education and in educating the next generation of scientists. The second goal is to use the tremendous brain power that we have at this institution to improve the health of our community. And Lord knows that's something that needs improving. And the third is to continue the excellent discoveries in our basic science labs, and for those that look translatable, move them as rapidly as possible to benefit patients. Now, none of this is possible without great people. And I want to spend a little bit of time this morning talking about those great people. And if you didn't get one of these on your way in, you should make sure you get one, and I hope you saw some of the things scrolling in the honors scrolling here. We have had a great year. Our faculty have had a great year. And if you don't see your particular honor or award here, go to our website. There's a little button, and you can tell us about it to make sure that you're on there for next year and that you're on our list. So please join us with this. And the other thing is, I hope you got some of these. We're going to set the gold standard for medical schools. So we've had a wonderful year. This weekend, 2 of us will be inducted into the National Academy of Medicine, the institution formerly known as the Institute of Medicine. And we're very proud of Mukesh Jain. Any award named for Judah Folkman must be a fabulous award. And Brian Cobb for his award from the Hartwell Foundation. Anytime we have a young faculty member who gets an NSF Career Award, we want to celebrate it, and congratulations to Nicole. And Jason pulled in a national award for teaching, and we think this is something that we should have more of. We should have more national recognition for the education programs that we provide. Now, the 2 faculty members at the bottom of the slide, you have seen in our list of awardees before. And I bet this isn't the last year you're going to see them on our list of awardees. Chris and Paul are superstars, and we're very proud of them. Now, Rong Zhu is another repeater on this list. Her bioinformatics is a multi-pronged approach to solving problems in medicine. And in this particular instance, she is applying it to cancer prevention. I do have to cite Kingman Stroll, because Kingman was awarded for one of the top 10 clinical research papers this year, and he wasn't able to come to the award ceremony because he was out of the country. So congratulations to Kingman. I do want to spend a little bit of time on Jackson Wright. Jackson is getting the 2015 Clinical Research Prize from the American Heart Association. But that's kind of only the tip of the iceberg for Jackson. You may have seen a few Saturdays ago an article in the New York Times that had Jackson's picture with it about the early termination of Sprint. Now, Sprint was a study across the country looking at whether tighter control of blood pressure has a better effect on cardiovascular complications than the looser control that is now the standard of care. And the data were so compelling that, yes, tight control is better, that the study was stopped about a year early. But that isn't the whole story with Jackson. Jackson has been involved in leadership roles in every major clinical outcomes trial focusing on African Americans with hypertension in the last 2.5 decades, starting with ALLHAT, working its way through the CRIC trial, the chronic renal insufficiency cohort study, DASH and DASH sodium, the African American heart failure trial, and most recently Sprint. Now, it used to be said that you couldn't recruit African Americans into clinical trials, and therefore we knew very little about whether there are differences in how you ought to treat African Americans compared to white patients. Well, Jackson not only figured out how to do it, he set the standard for doing it, and he's probably recruited more African Americans into clinical trials than anyone else in this country. It's a major achievement. And, oh, by the way, he also directs the DOMS Clinical Research Unit at University Hospitals. So he is just a remarkable fellow. Now, he tells me that he is going to go emeritus in January. But his definition of emeritus is he's going to do the studies that he pleases and not have to do the other stuff. Sounds like a pretty good deal to me. But we're grateful to have had Jackson's career here for all this time, and we're very, very proud of his accomplishments. Now, the university this year, we had a bumper crop of university prizes. Robert Elston got the highest award, the Hummel Hovorka Prize. That prize is the highest award that's given to faculty. And Robert actually really deserved it because Robert developed what is known as the father of the field of genetic epidemiology. His algorithms and his computer programs are the basis of personalized medicine, precision medicine, all those things that are hot today. He invented 30 years ago, 40 years ago. Moreover, his intellectual children populate the departments of epidemiology and biostatistics all over the country. Congratulations to Robert. Mukesh got the Distinguished Research Award, and Hunter Peckham got the Case Medal of Excellence in Health Sciences Innovation for his 30 years of work in making paralyzed people walk. Now, Sandy Markovitz was our Distinguished University Professor awardee this year. Sandy had a pretty good year. Sandy has a little device that you swallow that samples the cells in your esophagus to tell you whether you have Barrett's esophagus or not, and that's moving toward commercialization. Sandy discovered that inhibition of his favorite enzyme, PTGH, has a multitude of effects, including improving and accelerating the engraftment of stem cells, so that when a patient gets a stem cell transplant, if it engrafts faster, you minimize the time that they are vulnerable to infection. And this year he published a study in which he sequenced the genomes of colon cancers from African Americans and white patients. And he found that the genes that are mutated in African American patients are different from the genes that are mutated in white patients, which may explain the higher incidence and severity of colon cancer in this population. Moreover, some of those genes that are mutated are druggable. So he may have opened the door to specific therapies that could help in this scourge. Now, Gautam got an award for mentoring, not surprising because he's been interested in mentoring for a long time. Indeed, he has a whole foundation, the Young Scientist Foundation, devoted to that. And our staff person, Shannon Swiatowski, got the President's Award for Distinguished Service, a university-level award. So congratulations to Shannon. This is wonderful. The School of Medicine awarded its staff award to Robert Bucklew. The Scholarship and Teaching Awards went to 60 individuals with 40 projects in medical education. And the Riccinati Award went to Don Mann and Paul Park for their excellence in facilitating small groups. We had 3 people elected to the Academy of Scholar Educators. And if you know any of these people, they are the top of the heap in education. And by the way, Michael Dell has accepted the leadership of the Academy of the Scholar Educators, and we're going to look for great things from Bud and Marge and Marvin. We have a number of individuals who have stepped up in leadership roles this year. Some of them internal, like Mark and Fabio, and some of them recruited from outside. Cindy Lord came to us from Quinnipiac University and is directing our physician assistant program. And you'll hear a little bit more about that later on. Chris Gonzalez arrived from Northwestern and started as the chair of urology at UH just in September. Colleen Goss was promoted to assistant dean in administrative operations, And we recruited Mark Kaplan as Associate Dean of Marketing and Communications. He has a background of 6 years at Penn Medicine and 3 years at Columbia. And, you know, we've all complained that one of the issues at this medical school is that we hide our light under a bushel. Mark is charged with burning the bushel basket. I'm terribly grateful to Mike Constant for stepping up to become Vice Dean for Translational Research. This is a big job, and it also includes directing the CTSA. Now, since the new RFA for the CTSA is quite different from the old RFAs, this is a great time to shift PIs and to put his inimitable stamp on the next generation of our CTSA. He comes to us as a clinical investigator par excellence in cystic fibrosis and in pediatrics. And he now gets to expand his purview into all of clinical and translational science and pulling it together across the institutions. And we're grateful to Edmundo for stepping up in emergency medicine. To go with his position as Chief Scientific Officer at UH, Mukesh Jain was named Vice Dean for Clinical Sciences. Clara Papp returned to us to direct student evaluation and program evaluation. We have 2 new chairs at the Cleveland Clinic, one in pediatrics, one in family medicine. Pediatrics is a pulmonologist. We do intend to take over the world. Bob Salata and Human Sultanian stepped up in interim roles at university hospitals. And we're building the leadership cadre for the physician assistant program with an excellent medical director, David Shafran. We're grateful to Michelle Walsh for stepping up in pediatrics at university hospitals, and congratulations to Dr. Torres at Metro for dermatology. And we would be remiss if we didn't thank some of our individuals for their leadership over the last decade or so. Rick Walsh and Stuart Younger as department chairs, and Irene Medvedev, who is really the author of the e-curriculum. I want to tell you a little bit about the strengths that we have in research. You need to look at this list to see some of the great things that have been happening in research. I can't possibly list them all, but I picked out a few to tell you about. Jeff Collar published a paper in Cell this winter that recorded his observations that codon usage has a profound influence on how fast translation occurs. This is going to be very important for regulation in the cell and control, but it also has potential if you're in a biotech company and want to translate protein and make protein, you may be able to make it faster and cheaper by paying attention to codon usage. A really remarkable paper. Now, you've seen Jerry Silver cited in this setting before, and you know that he has a peptide that restores function to many animals who have a crush injury in their spinal cord. But what's cool this year is it turns out that that peptide is also effective in nearly eliminating post-myocardial infarction arrhythmias in an animal model. So turns out that what's good in the brain may be good elsewhere. Weiping Liu got a number of grants this year, the largest of which was from the Susan G. Komen Foundation to support her work in breast cancer stem cells. Those cells that hide out in the body and are pretty resistant to conventional chemotherapy may be the reason that breast cancer comes back years or even decades after its initial treatment. This could be a very important line of work. Weiping, keep it up and hurry it up. Nicole Ward did some proteomic studies and has identified 4 proteins out of the 50,000 in the gamish in her cells that seem to be associated with the development and progression of psoriasis, which is a common disease and an important therapeutic target. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about the support that we've needed for our research. The NIH has, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you know the NIH has been very challenged over the last decade. It's been flat. And what that means is that the buying power has been going down. And the competition for grants is severe. And we've been hovering for the last few years around $225 million. But this year we broke out, we broke 230. We're at $234 million in awards this year. Of course, you guys got to spend it for us to get the real benefit of this. You can't just hoard it. And we're very pleased that this is now on the upswing. What I'm especially pleased with is that almost $14 million of that new total is peer review, collaborative, team-based grants. And that is, I think, the wave of the future. These are team-based grants on this side of the street, and they are team-based grants at the Cleveland Clinic, but most of them are team-based grants that span the city. And that is something that I think we're going to have to do. This is a great boost, I think, and we think it's very, very important. Thank you to all of you who submitted those grants, sweated blood, stayed up till 3 a.m. And thank you to Robin Bissell, who stayed up to 4 a.m. to press the button. We try to support our researchers in a lot of different ways, and one of the most effective programs comes out of our CTSC. In this past year alone, we invested $700,000 in pilot projects. But you can see that over the lifetime of this program, we've had a major return on investment of $43 million in grants. We've also invested in bridge funding. Investigators who are near miss need some support to get to the next submission of their renewal grant. We have invested since 2008 about $7 million in bridge funding, and it has returned $98 million in grants. We're thrilled that our investigators have been able to use it so effectively and support their programs. Now, anyone who isn't hiding under a rock again knows that you have to diversify your sources of funding these days. It used to be that you could count on having your R01, renewing it. If you did good work, if you were bright and capable, that would be the support of your lab. That is no longer true. So we felt that we needed to expand our opportunities in foundation and industry funding. With the help of the Development Office and the Office of Strategic Initiatives, we've had a steady march upward of our foundation funding, and this is mostly in support of research. We need to keep doing that because we need to initiate new studies and to keep that rolling. Now, Mark Chance has had the Council to Advance Human Health, and over the years, we've gotten much better connected with industry, and it's starting to pay off. You see the remarkable bump, which we think is going to continue to go in that direction. These are supports that our investigators need to keep their labs going, to keep the brilliant discoveries flowing. We can't just depend on the feds anymore. So everybody in the state of the school wants to know what our finances are and what's going on here. Well, I'm happy to tell you that we are, in fact, stable and have been so for the last few years. Now, saying that we're stable does not mean that we have a satisfactory margin. A margin of $1 million on a budget of $450 million is kind of pitiful. But at least we're in the black. And it's certainly a whole lot better than when we started out in 2007 and we were about $33 million in the hole. So we've come a long way. It's required some effort on the part of the faculty and some sacrifices. And I'm particularly grateful to Chris Masadi and the finance team for keeping us on the straight and narrow and bringing us along in this very effective way. Thanks. Yay. Take a deep breath, because we ain't seen nothing yet. So how have we done that? As you can see, it probably wasn't with the NIH. One of the things that we've done is we've looked a lot harder at master's programs and education programs. This is a graph of our tuition and fees over the last 5 years. And most of that increase over the last 5 years has been from the physiology master's program and from the expansion of the master's in anesthesiology to different cities around the country. Come this July, we hope to admit a class for the master's in physician assistant studies. That's providing that our site visit in December goes well and that our report is good and we are given provisional accreditation, the Lord be willing and the river don't rise. And also that we get the kind of students that we really want to train. This is a real, I think, an important thing both for our educational programs and for interprofessional education, and for it also should have an impact on our finances. We also have some creativity going on. The Department of Bioethics is looking at a master's in humanities in medicine as one of their tracks. And we have the biochemistry and medical physiology masters partnered with the MBA program to do a combined MS MBA, which may be important if people want to go work in industry or if people want to go work for patent attorneys. We think there's a real niche for people who come out of these programs. And we are expecting an increase in student enrollment. And of course, how could I leave the topic of finances and increases without citing the spectacular work of our development office under the direction of Carol Moss, who is here somewhere. I saw her. There she is. This is a new record. It's 10 million more than last year's new record. And they've been working very hard to find things that are important for our students and for our faculty. So what about our students? We admitted another spectacular class this year. This is the white coat ceremony. The top is they're reading the oath of professionalism that they wrote. They wrote a spectacular oath. And they will read it again when they move up to their clinical years. This class has spectacular academics. Their grade point is over 3.7. Their MCAT's over 35. The national average for matriculated students is about 31. But they have the usual set of interesting backgrounds. Include Peace Corps volunteers, emergency medical technicians, car dealer at the casino, stand-up comedians, DJs, journalists, a pet therapist. I really want dibs on the pet therapist for my granddog, and a roller derby queen. We also had a white coat ceremony for our new PhD students. We've really been working on the PhD program. There are now 406 PhDs enrolled in our various programs around the medical school. Half of them are women. 25% of them are international students, and 10% are underrepresented minorities. Our average time to degree is currently 5.5 years, and that's a little bit on the high side, but it's come down, and we're looking for the rapid hit on the training of a PhD. We are starting to raise money for these individuals, for the fellowships for our graduate students. And we had a real boost. This week, or last week, I think, the check came in from Nobel laureate Paul Berg, the first $350,000 into our graduate student fellowship program. So thank you to our, yay! So thank you to our graduate and spectacular graduate Paul Berg for that wonderful gift. Now our students do very, very well. Our students are just in demand. They're sought after. 197 of our students matched. They match in very, very competitive specialties. We had 14 people match in orthopedics last year. That's a lot from a single institution. 20% of them went to residencies associated with the top 15 U.S. News and World Report, and a somewhat overlapping set of about 20% went to the top 10 hospital programs in the country, which is a slightly different set from the top medical schools. So we're very proud of what our students can do. We just had an alumni weekend last weekend, and the alumni are blown away by the quality of our students. And they come and talk to the alumni, and especially those who are in academic medicine say, one of them said to me, I thought my students at my university, I'm not going to tell you which one, were terrific until I sat down and had lunch with yours. Wow. So these are, in fact, spectacular students. Now, Pat Thomas, our Vice Dean for Education, is heading the charge on LCME. LCME is coming, and we are working very hard, and we really appreciate the efforts of all of the faculty to come together and work on this. This is a chance to showcase our excellence. And the LCME is actually supportive of pilot programs and of innovation. So we are going to be able to show them the spectacular opportunities afforded by the HoloLens. And I'm sure you've seen our videos and our efforts in the HoloLens, headed up by Mark Griswold and by Neil Maida. And Jim Young and I, of course, have little fingers in the pie there because we think it's so exciting. And so what if we can't program? I can't even program this thing. But we can at least think about the pedagogy and what needs to be the content and what can really be advantaged by being shown in holographic detail when you can still see the people around you. I think that's going to be a very impressive adjunct in LCME. And we also are rolling out new pathways. So we've had the urban health pathway for a few years. This year we're recruiting students to wellness and prevention and to humanities and medicine. So we have two new pathways. Humanities is headed by Susan Stagno, and Hope Barkukas is heading the wellness and prevention. Thank you to all of you who served on those committees and helped make these a great opportunity for our students to have an area of concentration about which they are passionate. In the next year, we'll be working on entrepreneurship and systems in medicine, and we'll be working on world medicine. So these are both fascinating areas of concentration that I think will really help our students. So I'm very excited about this. Who's afraid of the LCME? We have had a big program of partnership in the community. And I can only scratch the surface in telling you about it. In the first place, I'm not sure everybody knows that our medical students start their medical school experience in the community. Block 1 is a community experience. And oh, by the way, we sneak a little statistics and epidemiology in for the ride. But there are some of our students in the community experiencing some of the issues and solving problems right out of the gate. The community is one place where collaboration is absolutely essential. We can't do things in the community by ourselves. We can't just come out of the ivory tower, swoop down, and do something in the community and then swoop back out. It doesn't work that way. So I just wanted to illustrate one program in the community. I wanted to tell you about We Run This City. That's a collaboration among the YMCA, the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, the Rite Aid Cleveland Marathon, and us. The guys from the Y go into the middle schools of Cleveland and train kids for 14 weeks to run a segment of the Cleveland Marathon. Now, truth be told, most of them run the 1.2-mile segment, but some of them run 10. And last year we had a few kids run the half, so we're making some progress. What we do in this is we do the evaluation, and we ask, is there any dent in the health parameters of these kids if we run this program? Turns out when you go into the middle schools in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, when you start out, nearly 19% of those kids have high blood pressure. These are middle schoolers. When you train them for 14 weeks, the percent goes down to 8.5. And then we go away. And then we come back the next year. And you'd think they'd have all backslid, but in actual point of fact, it's only 10.5% of the second year enrollees who have high blood pressure. If you train them for another 14 weeks, it goes down below 3%. It matters. There are things that we can do in the community that are simple that may reduce the risk factors for our kids developing later disease. We have to think about that, and we have to think about more about that. But the key is you have to look at these programs and decide if they're worthwhile. If you're going to invest time and effort or money, you want to know that it's making a difference, and that's where we come in. And I'm going to tell you just a little more about that in a minute or two. The Better Health Partnership is a great example of changing health parameters in the community. So Better Health started, 7 years ago, something like that, with about 45 primary care practices. It grew after the first 3 years to about 65 primary care practices. And what they did is they focused on type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and heart failure. And they looked at process. So what do you do to try to monitor and make this better? And they looked at outcomes. So, and what they did was they posted the results on the website by practice. So if you were a poor practice that didn't do well, that was public. If you were a practice that did spectacularly, that was public too. And your changes were public. Now, of course, practices with a large proportion of poor people tend to have poorer outcomes than practices with a large proportion of wealthy people. Practices with patients who have no insurance do worse than practices with Medicaid, which do worse than practices with commercial insurance. Nevertheless, over the next 3 years, with workshops and posting of those results, all but one of those practices improved in process or outcome or both. Did it matter? How big an improvement was there? Well, for 27,000 type 2 diabetics who were enrolled in these practices, over the first 3 years, the hemoglobin A1C fell by a whole percentage point. That's enough to change the downstream complications of type 2 diabetes. So it works. Now, Randy has now expanded the Better Health Partnership to Akron. And Randy is now, thank you, moving into pediatrics. Because as the twig is bent, the tree inclines. And he is going to study childhood obesity and asthma. And we are very enthusiastic about the possibilities of making Cleveland's children healthier by a mechanism that seems to work in primary care practices for adults. Stay tuned. The other thing I wanted to tell you about was Health Improvement Partnership Cuyahoga, or HIPC. Partnership is absolutely crucial in community activities, and somehow the Cuyahoga County Board of Health managed to get 100 organizations in town, including all of our clinical affiliates, the university, the Prevention Research Center for Healthy Neighborhoods, companies, voluntary health agencies, all kinds of partners to come together and work on 4 topic areas for the health of Cuyahoga County. And I'm proud to tell you that Heidi Gullett, a faculty member at Case Western Reserve in the Department of Family Medicine, having been embedded in the Cuyahoga County Board of Health half-time for the last few years, is one of the co-leads of this whole project. She's a co-chair of the whole project. And I told you that there are 4 areas that they're working on. Heidi is chairing one of them, and that's the relationship or the transition between office practice and public health. That's a divide that needs not to be there. And Erica Trappel, who is in our Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics and part of the Prevention Research Center, is a sector lead on the topic area of availability of healthy foods and availability of exercise facilities in our inner city neighborhoods. 4 full-time faculty members and a number of adjunct faculty as well, but 4 full-time faculty members are on the steering committee besides Erica and Heidi, Elaine Borowski, who heads our Prevention Research Center, and Scott Frank. Now that really isn't quite the end of the story, because it takes money to do these projects, and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health isn't exactly rolling in dough. And what's happened is that with this partnership, they've been able to apply for external grants. They have over $13 million in external grants, mostly to the external agencies. But Case Western Reserve has a big piece of them because we're doing the evaluation. And I flatter myself that we got those grants because we had a rigorous evaluation program embedded in them, and the grantors could see that whatever we did, we would look at the results and we would modify if it wasn't giving us the results that we intended. So I think we've done a big piece of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of these projects impact on the health of our community. Now, partnerships in our extend especially to our hospital affiliate partners. Our primary affiliate, University Hospitals, we are now in the process of reconsidering our affiliation agreement with them. As Barbara Snyder mentioned in her remarks when she was here recently, we're currently in very active discussions, so I really can't provide a lot of details. Everything has to be done before anything is done, because this is a matrix that all fits together. So we'll simply have to continue the process. We are working in good faith toward an agreement, and we've outlined a set of principles that we hope represents the best interests of our school and our faculty. We were hoping to have this agreement agreed upon by the end of the year, but as often happens in negotiations, deadlines are sometimes suggestions, and I'm not sure that we will make that goal. But I can promise that as soon as we are able to talk to the faculty, my office will keep the faculty fully informed and in a timely fashion as soon as we are able. So stay tuned. Now, something else is happening at University Hospitals, and that is its longtime president, Fred Rothstein, who's sitting over here, has announced that he will retire as of January 1st. He's had an incredible run. Seidman Cancer Center, the new emergency room, most important, more parking. And he has done a spectacular job in managing the hospital. His last margin for the Case Medical Center was a spectacular $230 million. That's wonderful. But, many of you may know that Fred and I started out as division chiefs at Rainbow together. And I think of Fred maybe in a little different way. I'm going to tell you one little story about Fred. One day, we had commiserated as division chiefs that the hospital was full. Things were popping. It must be a full moon because everybody who was sick was in here and everybody who wasn't sick was on his way. And we were exhausted, and we were both on service. Well, about 6 o'clock that night, somebody rolled in on our CF service who looked like he might be having an intermittent GI bleed. And by the time I got him worked up by 7 o'clock, I thought, boy, I better talk to Fred about this. So I paged Fred. Now, this was in the real old days when you had a pager, and if your pager went off and you were in the car, you had to stop and find a payphone, and then you had to scrounge for a dime, and then So Fred calls me back, and I get partway into my story, and he says, well, he just needs to be scoped. And I said, shall I put him on? That time we shared the endoscopy suite. I said, well, shall I put him on for first thing tomorrow morning? He said, no, I'm going to turn around my car and come back. And that kind of capsulizes Fred's devotion to the patient. So I think that speaks more to you than all the buildings you've built and all the margins that you've had. Now, I'm not quite done. Fred has had another relationship with the medical school. He entrusted us with the medical education of his son. Now, We didn't do too badly with that because he matched in a very good neurosurgical residency. Where's Warren? And he's been thriving in that residency. And, but we appreciate that Fred thought enough of us to send his son for his medical education here. But now we know that his son has a son. And it's never too early to get Sam started on the, on the right path. Wait. What?
I said, I'll make sure he keeps it with him until he applies for that.
And there are a few things for you in there too, but we have to make sure that the next generation is taken care of. Now, when people heard that Fred was retiring, some people have said to me, he comes in so early, he works so late, he has a lot of dinners on behalf of the medical school, on the behalf of the hospital. When he stops doing that, is he going to go downhill? I certainly hope so. He's got a house in Colorado. So Metro Health is one of our longtime partners. Last year was our 100th anniversary of formal affiliation with Metro. We have a lot of good things going on with them, and we're busy raising money for professorships. In fact, we have a professorship award next week that, at Metro. And we're also raising money for a health policy program to couple with the Better Health Partnership. So this is a very exciting time for us with Metro. The Louis Stokes VA stands as a shining beacon in the mess that the VA has had in the papers these days. None of that has touched the VA here. This VA is one of the top 5 VAs in just about any measure that they measure. And they have been doing wonderful work at our VA. Now, one of the things that's really important to the medical school is that our VA is one of only 5 in the country to have been awarded the funds for a Center for Excellence in training in primary care. And they're working with residents and nurse practitioners in an interprofessional model. And because we're working on interprofessional programs as well, we've asked them if we could include students in that, and they are very enthusiastic about working out a system where we can make use of what they have learned in their first 5 years. And oh, by the way, this program was renewed. So it's not only very competitive to get in the first place, they've also been able to renew it. Now with the Cleveland Clinic, this year has been a very important milestone for the things that we've been doing with the Cleveland Clinic. We broke ground with our partners to build a new health education campus. This building will be the home not only for our school and our PA program, but also for the Francis Payne Bolton School of Nursing and the School of Dental Medicine. And we hope that it will be a model for healthcare education worldwide. We're very excited about all the things that are going on there and about the glorious building that has been put together. And we have proceeded and as rapidly as possible to get this going. When we started out the planning and programming, we named 13 committees in various areas. More than 130 of our faculty from all of our affiliates participated on these committees, as well as staff and students. And this has been very important for the anatomy area, for the simulation area. I see Mark Ader sitting there. For the admissions area, I saw Lena Maida come in. For all of the specialized areas where you have to have certain, where it would be ideal to have certain constructs. So there's been huge degree of participation. We are now down to design development documents and working on the construction documents. So we're very excited about the potential for that building. I wanted to show you what we expect to have in that building. the architect's conceptualization. This is crossing 93rd Street into the building. There are, in fact, going to be trees in the atrium. It's supposed to be a great area to exchange ideas. Stairways prominent, elevators hidden. Well, you know that the tagline for the medical school that I've been using lately is collaboration, community, and cures. Collaboration is absolutely essential for everything we do. We have to reach out and take the hands of the people that we need to collaborate with. We have an extraordinary opportunity before us. We can become a world destination for healthcare education if we work together. We can improve the health of our community if we reach out and we take the hands of the people in the community and work with them and are honest with ourselves as to what works and what doesn't work. We abandon what doesn't, we go with what does. And if we collaborate, we can have the world's top scientists continuing to develop things in their laboratories and work quickly to move them forward to patients. It takes us all working together. Collaboration, community, cures, and a lot of energy. And the great people that we have here. It takes you. Thank you.